Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast series. This episode is titled Springtime Kings off Topsail. I'm going to be talking to Captain Jim Sabella of Plan 9 Charters out of the Topsail area. We're going to be talking about when and where, gear and lure selection, and finally some trolling tips. My name is Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post. Fisherman's Post been serving the saltwater fishing community of North Carolina since 2003, bringing you fishing reports, fishing news, fishing tournaments, fishing schools, and here in our latest and greatest effort, the Saltwater Podcast series, in which we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina coast and ask them to share with us their thoughts, their insights on how to catch more fish more often. And in this endeavor, this episode, I'm joined, just as I am every episode, every endeavor, Billy Thorpe of Thorpe Creative. Billy, welcome to another episode.
Hey, what's up, Gary? Good to see you, man. Excited about this episode. Jim's always great guest, man. Always good time. So if it's half as fun as the pre-show has been, then it's gonna be a great time.
Yeah, man. He likes to share. He likes to talk. He's easy, man, and he's seen a lot. But mostly, like I said, man, you know, he's an ambassador, man. He's here with us tonight because he truly wants to help people catch some springtime kings.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be good, and he's the guy for it. So I'm excited to let you guys get into it. And so I'll get into talking about our sponsors here for a minute. We got Bland Landscaping Company first up. Landscaping company here in the North Carolina area. They got companies, or their company actually stretches far and wide in the North Carolina state. The state of North Carolina, I guess I should say, and they're looking for people, men and women who love the outdoors, who want to go to work there and go to work early, get off early, be on the boat, all that kind of fun stuff. They reached out to us, big fans of the show, so we appreciate Kurt and his team. We really look forward to the relationship this year. So Gary, if I ever fire you from Fisherman's Post podcast, you got a job waiting on you. I'm sure they like you over there.
That sounds like a pretty good life right now. Wake up, go to work, and then come home and leave work at work. Man, I don't even know what that would be like. I mean, what's that, office space or something, man? I think I need to work on the crew, on the highway crew.
Wait, I get a question before I sign this. Do you guys take out taxes, or am I got to pay those myself, or do I get to keep up with that, or you keep up with that?
Oh, you keep up with that? You keep up with taxes? And you don't get called at night, you know, looking to solve problems? Like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, right, man. Well, and then speaking of our next sponsor here, it will solve all your problems, all your boating problems. If you, one, like me, don't have a boat, or two, you have a boat and need it fixed, Marine Warehouse Center. Been with it for over 100 episodes, man. So crazy. Really appreciate those guys coming on board. I got a quick message from them, and we'll be right back.
Marine Warehouse, we have everything. We have new boats, we have parts, we have accessories, new trailers, we have a complete service department with highly trained technicians. Anything you need to get out on the water, we have.
At Marine Warehouse Center, as we've grown over the last few years, now have a large section of marine supplies from start to finish for all your boating needs.
What I love about this region is to be able to get out on the water, and also we love to be able to get you out on the water.
The best part of working at Marine Warehouse is being able to get involved with the customers and share a love for the water.
All right, there you go, man.
Good dudes. Sales, service, parts, good dudes. Dudes you want in your corner as we get ready to start the exciting 2022 boating and fishing season.
Yeah, man, always down to, you know, in the fishing community. I think that's what we talk about a lot here on the podcast, is just the community, the camaraderie, and really supporting everything, supporting a lot of fishing events, tournaments, the podcast, obviously, other events in our community. So they are great to partner with, and also great to be a part of all these events. They fish all, you know, tournaments, fish post tournaments, all that kind of stuff. They're servicing the Wilmington, North Carolina area, Charleston, South Carolina area. And then, and I sometimes forget this, man, but they will ship all over the world. So, or most places, I should say, in the world. So if you are listening to this from afar, which I think, Gary, we're over, I don't know, like 35 countries or something. Pretty cool. So call Marine Warehouse. If you can't find a part, maybe they can find it for you and ship it over there, and wherever you're at over there, not near us. So yeah, just a reminder.
Terrell, we might be reaching the end of this feature. I think Terrell is scraping the bottom of the barrel, to come up with something. I think he might crack under the pressure. But again, you've been more forgiving than I have been. So maybe you'll enjoy this one too. Are you ready for Terrell's joke, not mine?
I'm ready, Gary, for
Terrell's joke. Terrell's joke, not mine. What is so fascinating about the iceberg named Bluetooth?
Iceberg named Bluetooth. I have no idea.
Any ship that goes near it will sink. Sink. Like you sink a Bluetooth, you sink a ship. The best jokes are the ones you have to explain. Everyone knows that.
When I think about Bluetooth, I just think about really bad audio connections. That's all I think about. So,
well, Bluetooth sync. You see, you sync your device via Bluetooth, and so that's why the joke was funny. Is that the iceberg sinks ships to the bottom of the ocean, but since it's called Bluetooth, we're talking about SYNC. Isn't that the clever? See, again, the best jokes are the one you have to explain.
Sorry, Terrell, that was over my head. You got to keep them simple. Because I don't use the word sync. That's like
you're a tech guy.
I sync my Bluetooth. Like, when's the last time someone said that? Like, connect Bluetooth. I don't sync it. What are you talking about? We need jokes for this country, okay? So anyway. But I do have a picture for this country, so maybe they'll redeem me because I do have a nice picture here. If I can bring it up, here we go. Here's Jody Numph from Wilmington with a 34.8-pound king mackerel caught on a downrigger while slow trolling a cigar minnow near the mouth of the Cape Fear River in the shipping channel. So yeah, that's a good looking fish there, and right there in the shipping channel. So pretty cool. I would not imagine somebody could catch a fish like that there, but I guess so.
Yeah, man, it's a hot spot. Kings are close. I think Sabella will talk to us about Kings close, Kings out a little bit. And I think that's one of the beauty of pursuing that species, man, is they can be like Spanish mackerel right off the beach. But then sometimes you got to travel further off. We'll hear what Sabella has to tell us about the habits of springtime kings. And before I go and talk to Sabella, though, again, we're going to continue to plug, at least for a little bit, weekly fishing reports on the fishermanspost.com website. Those are weekly inshore fishing reports. In this first year, we figured that's what we could do well. We didn't want to overbite off a project we couldn't do well. And so if you go to fishermanspost.com, premium content, it is behind a paid wall, and it isn't in print. The newspaper will remain monthly. The newspaper will remain free. But weekly fishing reports in an audio video delivery format, the whole coverage area. Check it out. I'm excited about it. As I say, Fisherman's Post began back in 2003 weekly with weekly fishing reports. So it feels good to be getting back to a project that merges recent technology with our roots, man. Everything about it feels good.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. And Gary, you sent me the lineup of captains that are collaborating with us on this project, and I'm excited, man. I'm excited. A lot of past guests for the podcast, so it's gonna be a good time to continue to have these conversations each week. So it's gonna be good. So if you haven't, better go sign up now.
And so our conversation after I finish talking with Sabella is Billy's best takeaway. So following this conversation, where I try to get Sabella to talk, man, sometimes it's hard to get that guy to open up. After that, you and I are gonna talk about Billy's best takeaway.
Sounds good, man. I'll see you on the other side.
All right. My pleasure to introduce longtime friend, longtime Fisherman's Post contributor, schools, reports, everything, all of the above. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. Captain Jim Sabella, Plan 9 Charters out of Topsail. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Gary. Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I love doing anything that has to do with the Fisherman's Post.
Well, man, I am looking forward to this. This is going to be an easy podcast for me. You are an old salt, easy talker, so I'm mostly just going to get out of your way. However, before that happens, as is tradition, there's 2 questions before we get to the main event. Are you ready for question number 1, sir?
Ready.
Why should we listen to anything you have to say about a king mackerel?
I have a lot of experience fishing on the North Carolina coast, mainly for king mackerel. One of the first fish I started fishing for. I've got a long time experience. I've got the gray hair to prove it.
You do. We will accept that piece of evidence. And which brings me to question number 2. as it goes, is typically a non-fishing related question that continues here tonight. So Plan 9 Charters, your charter name is based on a science fiction movie. So I went in a science fiction direction for this trivia question. Which of these movies, I'm going to read you 4 movies, which of these movies is in the top 3 science fiction movies of all time, according to Empire Magazine? All right. Which of these 4 is in the top 3 of all time science fiction movies? E.T., The Matrix, 2001, A Space Odyssey, or Back to the Future?
2001: A Space Odyssey.
It was actually a trick question. None of them are in the top 3, which is what I thought was odd. Knowing that none of them are in the top 3, take a guess at what might comprise the top 3. Throw out another science fiction movie.
Star Wars.
Empire Strikes Back was number 3. Alien was number 2. And Blade Runner was the top science fiction movie of all time.
Well, Blade Runner is actually one of my favorite science fiction movies, and I feel bad that I didn't really think about that. But that is, hey, I'd go for that.
Well, I'm not going to let us nerd out anymore. I'm going to switch us back over to King Mackerel. And I think your first talking point is the logical one with Springtime Kings. I mean, everyone is sort of eager to start fishing with success, wondering about water temperature, wondering about it all. When is it time to go out there? So as far as the Springtime Kings, what is it that you look for that tells you it's time to start looking?
Usually the Springtime Kings show up around the same time, maybe about a week or so later than the Spanish do. Usually when the Spanish are here, I look for about 67-degree water out about, say, 15 to 20 miles and start to look in those areas for them. Usually around, it can be late April. Usually it's early May.
So 67 degrees. So the Spanish will show up a little bit before the 67-degree mark?
Yeah, they usually show up, strangely enough, usually around 65 degrees inshore. They're usually right on the heels of the Atlantic bonito. So they'll show up right there when that water temperature starts getting into the upper 60s.
So, man, I have a lot of water temperature conversations, especially here in the springtime when, we're waiting for a certain water temperature for fish to show. And I'm going to apologize in advance if this is a dumb question, but like, if we're looking for 67-degree water and we're looking for kings, that sounds like you have already sort of insinuated anywhere from beach to 20 miles, or maybe we have to go 15 to 20 miles. If it's 67 degrees on the beach, can I plan on it being 67 degrees out 20 miles, or how does water temperature vary in the springtime when you push further off?
Usually the water temperature is warmer as you get off in the springtime. You'll hit cold patches, but usually they warm up out there faster because you've got water getting pushed in from like the Gulf Stream and stuff like that. And that deeper water, a lot of times it holds the temperature a little bit better.
So are you looking for 67-degree water on the beach, or are you looking for 67-degree water out at your 15 to 20 mile mark?
Usually out there like 15 to 20 miles. There'll be a mix of kings that come in with the Spanish right along the beach, but those fish are usually small fish. The little bit bigger fish, I'm looking out there in that 67-degree water, usually in that 15, 20 mile range.
So I'm guessing that you're spending a fair amount of time off the beach, anticipating the bite, looking for the bite, and or you're well connected with other friends that are doing the same thing. For my recreational angler that isn't spending a lot of time on the water, is actually, hopeful to get out there and isn't as well connected, how are they going to know that it's 67 degrees, 15 to 20 miles off the beach? What's their best resource for looking for that indicator?
There's the buoys. There's a few buoys that ILM 1, 2, and 3, which are accessible through like fish weather. that'll have water temperature. There's the tower, frying pan tower that usually you can find it on, but you can find it on a lot of other websites. Saltwater Central, they'll all have water temperature out there far, because there are some buoys and stuff out there.
All right, man. And so before we get to like gear and lure, what I better want to understand is, it's springtime. You've seen something that looks promising on, a buoy recording or word of mouth. And so we are looking at that 67-degree mark. I'm on your boat. I'm heading out of one of the topsail inlets. Like, how do you determine what your plan is, man? Do you have some spots in mind and we're keeping our eyes open on the way there? Or is it really more visual related and you don't have spots in mind? What goes through how do you set the plan for the day?
Yes, I have places in mind. It'll be whether it's some ledges, some places I've caught them in the past. A lot of stuff that I have, I know that this is where I've gone in April, May, and caught them. 23 Mile Rock is one of those places that it's from everywhere. Everybody goes there. But there's a lot of other places that have the same features and structures. Like off of Topsail, you have the third set of boxcars. You have some of the ledges, the grouper ledges that you fish out there, the black grouper and places like that. Jesse's Ledge, places like that. Even as close as, say, off of North Topsail, the weather buoys, the letter buoys out there, like the G buoy and stuff like that are out there in a little bit deeper water.
So I guess basically for the recreational guy who doesn't have 1,000 marks in his machine from the time on the water, I mean, he can pretty much go to any one of the established marks, like anything that you can find online. I mean, ideally you troll around and start adding machine marks to your machine, but there's plenty of spots visibly noted, publicly aware, which would serve as a good place to start.
Absolutely. Anything on one of the grease charts. Nowadays, you can buy those charts that you can actually plug them right into your machine, and they'll have a lot of those numbers. Chip berries, the old grease charts that we've always used out there, those will have plenty of numbers. Look for stuff in the 60 to 80 foot water depth range. Once you get out to about 60 feet of water, which is about 10, 12 miles offshore, start looking for the water temperature on your fish finder. Anybody out there with an offshore boat should have a good working temperature gauge. And when you see that, look for those water temperatures out at those spots.
So does it happen in the springtime that you'll have a plan of heading to a certain spot and, other than water temperature, will you see anything that makes you say, wait a second, we're going to stop here. We're not going to go all the way to my original plan. Is there anything other than water temperature that might get you to pull off plane and check an area out?
Sure. Good clean water. Like that dark, clean green, like what they call king green. If I start to see big pods of bait on my machine, you're not going to fish in the desert. You want to see that there's food around. Anything. A couple birds hitting the water, just in a spot where usually they're around structure. It's going to be where you want to be keyed in on structure. So, if you see the birds working, stuff like that, definitely, it's worth a stop and make a little bit of a pass through there and at least see if you're starting to see the life that you want to see.
And what are the types of
Okay.
What are the types of bait pods that you'll see that type of year? Like what bait is moving through that you would either see visibly or see on the machine?
Usually big minnows like silver sides. You'll see some not you're not going to see menhaden really out there. You're going to see more like cigar minnows, Spanish sardines. Those they're all starting to come in at that same time.
So I'm going to say, this is going to be my segue, since we're not going to see a bunch of menhaden, I'm guessing this isn't the springtime Kings off Topsail isn't a live bait trip. I'm guessing you're pulling some lures, some artificials. So let's use this as our segue into what you like to pull behind the boat once you have an area you have some confidence in.
Okay. So once I get out there, and especially in the early season, I like to pull stuff that allows you to pull faster, because you're not going to be able to slow down. The fish are going to be scattered. They're not going to be in one area. So of course, like the good old standard, this is a number 8 planer. I usually fish a couple of rods with planers. This is a number 8. I'll go up as big as the number 12 planer, just something to get down, because you might not be seeing 67 on the top, but down below you might mark a thermocline where you have a temperature change down below. Behind these, I'm going to be pulling drone spoons. These are the good old reliable King lures. Usually I'll pull those on some heavy gear. Something like this is a 6.0, this is a 4.0 with 80-pound braid, and this is on a pretty stiff rod. That's what I'll be using with the planers. And then up top with light tackle, I'll be pulling Missouri deep divers. These will get down around 12, 15 feet. Anything with a big lip, something shiny. Kings are definitely reaction strike fish. Even stuff like stretch 20s. These right here, you can pull these up 4 to 6 knots, which is what I'm going to be pulling all this stuff at in the early season when I'm looking in those types of places.
Okay, so I definitely had some follow-up questions, and you've already answered one. Was 4 to 6 knots is sort of your target speed there in the springtime?
Yes.
And you say in large part that's because the fish aren't schooled, the fish are scattered, so it helps to cover water to try to find fish more in the springtime than other times of the year?
Yes. So, I mean, you're going to be, when you start trolling in this area, you've seen something, or you're going to an area where you've heard reports. So, fish have tails and they don't have addresses. So I want to be able to move around fast and be able to cover a lot of ground. I mean, at 4 knots, at 5 knots, I'm covering a lot more ground than slow trolling at, barely in gear.
All right, so now we're going to back up and talk about your spread more. You definitely wet our whistle, but I believe my listeners, viewers like specifics. So let's first talk about the planer setup. So you'll run 2 planer rods. That's and I don't know what you like to do, but let's just imagine if you were doing a 4 rod spread, 2 of them you think would be planers?
Absolutely, 2 planers. And I pulled 2 different size planers. Usually, like I said, a number 8 or a number 12, and then either a number 3 or a number 4.
And then leader-wise behind the planer, you like to run how long and what pound tests leading to those drone spoons?
25 feet. I like either 60 or 80. Something that when you go to leader the fish, it doesn't cut into you. The thinner lines will cut into you. And also with one of those big planers, you don't want to go with light line, because when the fish hits and that planer sets, a lighter leader will snap, but 25 feet a leader to my.
Okay, and I understand. I mean, I understand the concept between two different size planers, so you're covering different depths of the water column. If you're having them troll at different depths, are they different distances back behind the boat as well?
Yes. What I do is I set my rods. Anytime I'm using a planer, is I count them back, and I try to pull my deeper planer closer to the boat, and my shallower planer further from the boat. But I don't pull them far back. My deep planer might be a 6 or an 8 count, like a 6 Mississippi or an 8 Mississippi count. And my deep planer, my shallow planer might be a 10 to 15 Mississippi count, depending on water conditions and stuff like that. You don't want to pull those planers way far back, because the further a planer goes back, the shallower it actually runs.
And then I'm sure there's a logical answer, but I love to ask the question, why? Why the deeper planer closer to the boat?
When you're making a turn and stuff like that, I just like it to be closer. It's just a personal thing. Also, if I find that the deeper planer sometimes catches first fish, and then when it comes up, I don't want to have to deal with the heavy planer with so far out behind the boat.
And then I guess just to follow up on distance, so your counting system makes sense to me, and I like that simplicity. So the way you have it, though, is it like the deeper planer is closer, and then the lure is like 25 feet off the deeper planer? So is the second planer actually in the water behind the lure of the first planer? Is that how that count system works, or is it pretty close?
It's usually far enough away that it's not going to come in contact with it. That's just it's going to be. Remember that one planer is going to be down, like, say, 30 feet, where the other planer is only going to be down about 25 feet, 20 feet. So you're not going to have to worry so much about where the lure is in relation to the planer.
And then about drone spoons, like everything, there's so many different colors, different sizes that you can purchase. It can be overwhelming looking at a tackle aisle. Like, I think you held up 2 different colors. Do you have much preference when it comes to color? Does color matter? And then how are you on figuring out what size drone spoon to start the season with?
It's generally for kings. I'm trolling the 3.5. That's the size this is. This is a 3.5 drone spoon. If you can see it on the back there. There we go. I like this color green. Also, I like red with the silver, pink with the silver. Some days, I like white, but I seem to catch more on the silvers.
All right, so now we're going to go to our follow-up questions on the deep divers. So they're going to be out beyond the planers.
Right.
And I guess the same question about size and color when we're talking about deep divers.
So this one's pretty beat up, but this is what they call the clown color, which is a really popular color. Good old red and white. That's always a popular color. Pink, purple. I'll pull different colors. Like, I like a purple plug in the morning, and then as the sun comes up, I might change it out to like a red and a white or a pink. In the early season, I don't do as much with like a chartreuse type plug. They tend to work a little bit better when it gets warmer, I find. But those are the ones. And Yuzuri makes 3 different sizes, and I like either pulling the medium size one or the big one for the kings.
And then are those deep divers, are they pulling about a little bit shallower than your what, 3 to 4, number 3 or 4 planer?
No, they'll be pulling probably around 12 feet, 15 feet at the max. You know, that's there. So they're up higher than everything else, and they're going to be back a lot further than everything else too.
So I didn't ask about this, but I guess I hadn't thought about this, and so I'm going to relate it to a deep diver question. So the further back a planer is, the less deep it pulls. And I guess, do you happen to know why? I mean, I guess it's physics. Do you happen to know why? And then is it the same true with deep divers? Like the further back, the shallower they pull, or do they work differently?
So the reason why the planer tends to float, that I can figure, is the more line you have out, the line is actually acting as a float. So it's more water pressure and stuff like that. And because it's down, it starts to lift it up. So, you know, you're using a thicker line. So the more you have out, it's starting to float. With the deep divers, I'm usually pulling those out of like my T-top, or so they're up higher. So you don't have as much line in the water. And usually I'm pulling the deep divers with one of my standard live bait rods. So they're bitten pulled on a lot lighter tackle, you know, 20-pound test. So it's a little bit lighter gear, so they don't have as much worry about the float from the heavy line.
So when I'm pulling a deep diver, what is the scenario that causes that thing to like skip, to like pull out of the water? Am I not back far enough? Am I trolling too fast? Am I with waves, against waves? Like, you know, that seems to happen. And then how do you solve it?
So I had this the other night. I talk about this all the time. I'm trying to see if I could get it where it shows it. You see the split ring, there's a solid ring, right? That split ring is part of.
Yes.
Okay. With that solid ring, if the plug has a tendency to skip out to one side or the other, you have to take needle nose pliers and just impart just a little bit of pressure on that solid ring, the fixed ring, opposite the way that it skips out of the water.
Okay. There we go. So it's that simple. So it's not my speed or even how far back I have it. It's just something has happened to the solid ring that just needs a little correction.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
It's not, you know, a lot of people, you have to just, it's not like you're going to sit there and crank that thing over. You're just going to put a little bit of pressure and sort of just try and move it just a little bit the opposite direction. So you got to have to make sure that you're watching, you know, which way it skips out.
So we've already been touching on trolling tips. Before I go further into trolling tips, I guess I'll ask, like, I kind of forced you into a 4-rod setup explanation. Is that what you like to do, or are you running more than 4?
Usually I only run 4. I find that it's, you know, I've covered all the water column. I've covered all what I think that those fish are going to be. I don't have as much luck on the fishing stuff at the surface during that time. So I don't really try to keep anything up at the top. So 4 rods is plenty.
All right. Well, what else can you share with my listeners, my viewers, as far as trolling tips go? We've got our spread out. We've got confidence in the area. Like, what is it that you want to make sure you do? What is it you want to make sure you don't do?
Okay. one thing that I always do is I'm always turning. That's another reason why my spread is set up that way, so that I can turn, and make, fairly tight turns. You don't have to turn like, 90 degrees every time, but I like to make sure that I'm turning. I like to go and make sure that I've tried fishing upwind, downwind, cross current. I want to make sure that I try every direction that I can. So basically, if you want to think of it as north, south, east, and west, troll north, troll south, troll east, troll west. Some people troll what they call a box pattern. They'll troll for, a minute one direction, turn, troll a minute another direction, turn, troll a minute another direction, turn, troll a minute another direction. And then they'll go 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, so that you're covering an entire area and looking to see, which way the fish are biting and which way the fish are, where they're holding. And remember, the other good thing to do is remember where you had a bite. Depending on how you run your machine, you can hit the man overboard button and then clear those at the end of the day. You could hit, a mark button if you're marking some structure or something. And the other thing I do is I'm out in water depths that, like, I might want to fish for something else some other time of the season. So I'm always looking for new structure that I might not have on my machine. It's a great way how to find like structure for grouper fishing, sea bass fishing, whatever you like to do.
So if you hook a fish, then I'm guessing you're going to drag back over that. You're going to find your way to drag back over that spot. So my question is more like, if you're not finding fish, you're covering water and you haven't found a fish, will you ever cover the same water twice just to be sure? Or you cover it once, whatever kind of pattern you employ, and if you don't find it on a first pass, it doesn't warrant a second pass?
If I saw the bait, or if I saw something there that made me think, if I marked some fish, if I marked some fish that I saw that they were, what you relate to as kings, I would definitely make a pass in another direction until I figured out maybe they're just not eating. But if I see the environmental conditions right, I would try it. I would try going over a spot in another direction.
And I mean, I was actually like thinking about conditions, maybe just in a little bit different way than you mentioned with environmental conditions. Like, as far as the springtime goes, if we're isolated on the springtime, is there a pattern that you see, as in like early in the morning, middle of the day, late in the afternoon, trolling, with the current, with the waves, trolling against the current, against the waves? I mean, I know anything can happen on any given day, but I know you also try to pay attention to patterns. Anything that you've noticed sort of historically about predictable behavior in the springtime?
Predictable behavior overall, fish feed into the current. So if you know which way the current's moving, if you feel which way the wind's going, the fish usually face into that because it brings the food to them. They expend less energy. So most of the times you'll notice that your hits come when you're either heading towards them or heading across the fish. You don't get a lot of fish when you pull lures from, when you attack them with the lures. Usually fish are not used to, bait fish attacking them.
Coming up from behind.
Right. Now if you got a fish that's if your fish are holding down at like 50 feet and all your stuff is at 30 feet, the fish will move up in that. But like if you're marking stuff at 50 feet, if you're marking stuff at 30 feet and all your stuff's down there at 30 feet, it doesn't, the bait fish can also see the big fish, so they're going to be trying to avoid them. A lot of times, like I said, it's like a cross current works good because that's a fish fleeing or something like that. But you don't want to lure, attack the fish with your lures.
All right. So for the next line of questioning, I'm going to imagine that you actually know what you're talking about and that this advice is going to work for someone and they are going to hook a spring king. What do they do next?
Once
a fish is on, they have generated a strike. What do they do?
Okay. So your two types of gear, you're going to deal with two different types of strikes. If you get a bite on a planer, the planer is usually going to trip, and depending on the size of the fish, it might just come to the surface or pull a little bit of drag. I usually keep the boat heading straight and get somebody on the rod. And once that person picks up the rod, I might make a little bit of a jag to one side or the other just to see if I can get another fish to strike on something. A lot of times they'll hit the deeper bait first, and then they'll come up and, everybody sees one fish eat, and they'll come up and attack the other one. So I don't worry about bringing in another line until that fish has made a run or I've got that fish under control.
And so I guess what I'm hearing is if it's a strike on the planer rod, you maintain the same speed. And then at any point, I mean, maybe when the planer is to the rod tip or something, is there any point where you back off, or you're going to stay at that 4 to 6 knot mark through gaff and through fish over the gunnel?
Well, usually with a fish on the planer rod, I don't gaff the fish. I usually hand line the fish, and usually with 80-pound test, the spring kings are not 40 pounders. They're usually schoolie fish, 6 to 10, 10 pounds maybe the most. So I'll just usually grab the leader and sling the fish into the boat. I usually do that on the first fish until I see how good my crew is. Now, if we hook a bigger fish, then I'll bring that fish in and then gaff it. But most of the time, you're bringing it in, slinging it over the side, and try to sling it into the pool, keep everybody away from it.
So how does the sequence of events change if it's a deep diver bite?
Okay, on a deep diver bite, I'm going to make a turn. Usually I'm going to turn into wherever the fish is hit, because I want to, when you turn into the bite, the line that is towards the fish will go away from the boat, and I will try to clear the heavier rod, the lighter rod, after a few seconds after the fish has made a run. Let them run, because the lighter rods, they're going to be able to run. Once they tire out, then I'll have somebody work to bring in the deep diver rod that's not bit, and usually then I will slow down a little bit on those rods, because I want to be able to keep the fish off the side of the boat. We're going to have to fight that fish a little bit more on that rod than we would on the planer rod.
That's good, man. So I guess we're at the point where I say, I think we've covered it all, but like if someone is excited to give this a try, they just want to get the boat offshore, they want to get the trolling spread out, and of course they'd like to hook some fish while they're getting ready for a season. What's like the top 3 things I guess you would say to keep in mind if you're looking for success with springtime kings?
Be willing to move. If you're not getting the bites, if you're not seeing what you want to see, move. If you fish that area good and now you feel like it's you just doesn't have it, move. Go a little bit deeper. Maybe you've got something in close to the area that's still that maybe a half a mile away, a mile away, troll towards that area, don't get stuck on one spot, because, the fish might literally be at the next ledge. Then, be willing to change colors, be willing to change your spread. There's been days when I wound up pulling in the big planers and, went to like number 2 planers with big Clark spoons. And that, got me bites because the fish were on a smaller bait, or, there was, smaller fish in the area. And just, you can find a lot of places at this time of the year. And, sometimes it just takes you to go, get out of your comfort zone. You might have caught them at 23 Mile Rock every year for the past 10 years. And this year they're not at 23 Mile Rock. So, you might find yourself a new honey hole. Just go off and look on your chart, put in a number, go to that number, looking for the same, water depth. If you know where the temperature is, same thing, just look for that type of stuff.
All right. And then this is going to, I promise, be my last question. You're almost through this podcast. The last question would be, we've been talking about springtime kings. So, quickly, because we're not looking to start another podcast, if we are transitioning into summer kings, like how do the king behavior change in the summer, or how does targeting this fishery change in the summer? And I promise I'm just looking for a quick answer. I'm not looking for you to start another podcast.
Usually in the summertime, the fish are established in a spot, and they're going to be in that area, in that water depth. And so you're going to be able to change to dead bait or live bait fishing.
All right. That is a succinct answer. I am through my questions. Captain Jim Sabella, Plan 9 Charters out of the Topsail area. Always a good time talking to you. And thank you once again for sharing your insight, sharing your knowledge on how to catch more fish more often.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate the opportunity, as always.
And then go look at Blade Runner, man. How long's it been since you've seen Blade Runner?
Ooh, probably about 10 years.
All right, you're due. That's your homework. That's my homework for you. You've given me and Billy homework. I just gave you homework.
Okay, I will. I mean, maybe I get a few hours tomorrow night. I mean, watch it on my phone.
All right, man. Well, have a good time, Sabella. I'm already looking forward to next time.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Billy Thorpe, when was the last time you saw Blade Runner?
I don't know, man. Long time.
Me too. I couldn't guess either.
Might have to go hang out with Jim and sit near his phone and watch it.
Yeah, I think
in a while.
I would like to go king fishing with Jim, but I think watching a science fiction movie with him might be just as entertaining. Yeah. I mean, Plan 9 Charters is a science fiction movie. Plan 9 is. So I'm guessing it's a pretty good nerd out scene watching a science fiction movie with him. I'm guessing.
Yeah, or best of both worlds, Gary. You get on his boat, he does all the work, you watch the phone, he hooks a fish, and then you pause it, you reel it in, and then you continue.
I'm watching Blade Runner on my phone while he's trolling around looking for a king. Yeah. And when we hook one, I can say, oh, this is a good part of the movie. You go ahead and catch that one.
Exactly. And actually, it's not his phone because it's not your phone, it's his phone because you don't want to use your data. So
yeah. That makes sense. I like this. I like this plan. I just thought of a theme for my fishing trips in 2022.
Watch me watch this movie while you catch all the fish.
Just tap me on the shoulder when we really have a bite. Not when we think we have a bite. Just tap me on the shoulder when we have a bite.
Just tap me on the shoulder when you're ready for me to hold it for the picture. Oh, you do.
What's your best takeaway?
Man, I get a couple of them, but one thing I think you said that, and this is in a lot of, I'm not going to say all fishing because I haven't fished for all species, but a lot of species of fish that I have fished for is that they face into the current and the food brings it to them. So it's like find the current, figure out which way it's going, and fish against it. Don't fish with it. So I thought that was just like a good reminder for some people. And then I'm often confused when I'm offshore. I'm like, this is a huge ocean. Like, how in the heck do you navigate and think of, where do you troll? Where do you go? And so I think the square pattern, like the 1 minute round each way, 2 minute round each way, 3 minute round. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty good mental, like, at least I'm doing something. I just don't feel like I'm out here in the middle of the ocean with no agenda, so it gives me a little plan. So I always think about that. I'm like, man, how do these guys find this stuff? But anyway, so yeah, there you go. I'm just
solid.
My real lack of knowledge when it comes to offshore fishing or near shore.
Billy, this is your year. Something tells me this is your year to become more familiar.
I'm just going to go get a boat from Marine Warehouse Center, get my captain's license, and call myself a guide. It worked for podcasting. I wasn't a podcaster.
People believe we're podcasters. Why couldn't they believe you're a charter captain?
Joke's on you guys. No. Yeah, right. Oh, Billy's charters. Here we go. No, I'm just messing. But yeah, man, great episode. Learned a lot. I'm not very versed in any of that kind of fishing, so it's all knowledge to me. But that was a couple of things I thought, okay, maybe someone in my position, you could take that away and do something with it. So,
and you should buy a boat from Marine Warehouse Center, man. We are ecstatic to continue that relationship. Proud of that relationship, actually. And 100 episodes they've been with us. Remind me, what did we get them as a gift for the 100th episode? I forget what we bought them. Class X. We're a couple of Class X.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you're in Puerto Rico. It's on me for not going by with a present. It's on me. So I'm clowning myself more than I'm clowning you.
Yeah, we're getting Terrell a joke writing workshop. I'm sure there's some of those we can, or maybe
that guy's horrible.
Stages. We'll book him on a couple comedy stages.
He's horrible.
Terrell. Jeez, dude, you're ruining our show. No, actually.
And then Bland Landscape. I'm gonna plug Bland Landscape. And again, the springtime's coming. Do you want to be doing yard work or do you want to be on the boat? Call Bland Landscaping. And if you're not happy with your employer, if you're not happy with what you feel like isn't a career, it's more of a job, then talk to Bland Landscaping about careers, not just jobs.
That's right. I'm calling you, Kurt. I got you, man. Gary's over here making me work hard on this podcast for peanuts. I'm coming over. I'm just mad. All right, Gary. It's a great show, man. Appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right.